Welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night. My name is JW Colwell. I am joined as always by my good friend, co-host, and partner in the Shadowlands of movie theaters around the country, Rich Drees. How are you doing today? I was told never to trust a man with a state in his name. Your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. It's on your end. There you go.
How's that?
That's better.
I didn't touch anything. I think it mutes automatically when you play the intro.
Yeah, it does.
For some reason, system didn't kick it out. Sorry about that.
Mute. It's like
paying attention, but I was just getting some late breaking news that Noir City will be coming to the Philadelphia area in the middle of November and being at the Ambler Theater this year. And I'm very excited. So
that's cool. Okay, that's a big.
Yeah, that means I get to hang out with a couple of friends.
That's good breaking news.
Anyways, this summer at a couple of events at the drive-in, but you know.
I was thinking about the structure of the show tonight. I want to get the miserable shit out of the way first. I want to get the sadness out of the way first. And like a couple things. One of the things that we're dealing with as a generation, and I think this is something we need to talk about, right? Yeah. We have many people that are passing away that we may enjoy their work, but they could be perfectly awful people in real life. And I think as we progress, like, it's sadder and harder to separate the two. And so, I'm not going to celebrate people, but I do think, there are people that we lost this week. We lost Nicholas Brendan. He was on Buffy. He played Xander. We loved him, but he was an abuser.
That comes right on the heels of the Buffy relaunch. Revival, whatever you want to call it. Getting
the catastrophe
at Hulu.
Yeah, it came right on that, and it was like a double. It's like a double hit. It's like a double hit, but I don't want to not talk about the kid. The person he became was not what he was before, right? And so, where do you draw the line on that? Where is your as we're going through this cycle of world, right? How do you draw the line
in his life? From what I've been able to read, it sounded like over the years he got better. He wrestled with demons, literally, not just figuratively, as he did on the show, but he came out on the other end and was in a better place from what I've been able to understand, from what I've been able to read.
Yeah, that's what I've read too. And, but I don't want to.
It was a health issue. It sincerely was. But when somebody who's like 3 years younger than me dies, it does give me a pause. A moment of pause as well.
It's been a weird week in that regard. Like another person we're going to talk about, like, rest in peace, Nicholas Brendan. But I'm not celebrating what you did afterwards. I'm celebrating how you impacted me every Tuesday night for 7 or 8 years of my life. And so I don't want to celebrate him. I certainly don't celebrate the abuser side of him, but I do celebrate the wacky part of the Scooby Gang that he was. And it's hard though. I think this is like, we're dealing with the first generation. Like, I feel like this is the first generation of people dying where all of the stuff that was in a closet that was buried in Hollywood's past, right? People would die and then you would celebrate, and then there'd be a book about them and be like, oh, well, they did have problems. And, and then you'd read about the book and you move on. You know what I mean? I think this is the first thing where everything's front and center all the time. Right? So another person we have to talk about really quick, and, it's not really, really quick, but I want to put him in place. Chuck Norris passed away this week. Chuck Norris was a huge part of the 80s action that I grew up with, right? I mean, was he a good person? Maybe. You know what I mean? Who am I to
I
judge?
would. I dare say you and I would not agree with him very much
Politically
on
at
any
all.
political. Yeah. And, so he had some views that perhaps were less than
Not
enlightened
Yeah,
in our opinion.
less than enlightened is a good way to put it.
So,
But
yeah.
I don't want to not talk about the fact that in the 1980s, I know we talk about him now as like a funny meme and everything, like all the Chuck Norris, could kill was scarier than everything. Like his movies weren't the best of the movies, and I don't think he's on the same level as say Schwarzenegger or Stallone, but he is somebody that made action movies in the 80s that people paid attention to. I was going through them, right? Like Code of Silence, Invasion USA, Delta Force, Silent Rage, Lone Wolf McQuade, right? They're all like all of these big missing in action. You know what I mean? Like all these movies kind of like the Octagon, Way of the Dragon, like he was something big. Right? He wasn't on the par of like the major action stars, but he was somebody you went to see, right? Like if Invasion USA was opening on a Friday night and you could sneak your way into that R-rated movie, you did what you could. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
And so I want to celebrate him. I don't know. I would have a beer with him, but I don't think we'd agree on a single political issue, but and he certainly had like terrible views on LGBTQ people, which we embrace here on Generation Movie. So yes. I don't know what to do
embrace
there.
The LGBTQ, not we embrace his views.
Right, we embrace it. Yeah,
let's get our pronoun. Let's get the antecedents to what we're.
Let's get everything here. Right. We don't embrace his views. Yeah. But like I said, like his action movies were a little bit like they were canon. The Millennium Globus, right? The Globus canon films. And so they were a tick down from any of the major, like Schwarzenegger, Willis, Stallone. Like they're a tick down, but he was a major action star. And then, Rich, if you look at his second act is that in the 90s, he's completely reinvented himself into a major television star. Because Walker, Texas Ranger played forever. What, 9 seasons? Something like just crazy shit. Like where you're like.
And it gave us perhaps one of the most amazing moments on the Conan O'Brien show ever. You know the clip I'm referring to?
I do. I know the Haley Joel Osment clip, and the moment you get done with our show tonight, you should go watch it.
If you've not seen it, if you've not seen the clip, we're not going to spoil it for you.
It's under. You can find Conan O'Brien. Under last Walker Texas Ranger clip is what it is.
Yeah.
The last Walker Texas Ranger clip we're ever going to run. And Conan's reaction to it is spectacular. Amazing. But like I said, he was somebody. He was impressive, and he was into health and fitness, and he did all kinds of things with Christy Brinkley, who, by the way, gave a very passionate, heartfelt, emotional thing about I didn't agree with a single word he said, but we worked together for 10 years, and he was the most pleasant family man I've ever met in my life. And it's like, I just wish he had different views. And then today, right before we came on, you and I got a crushing blow to our childhood. I can only describe her as the first time you maybe felt anything sexual ever. I don't know.
That was actually Marsha Strassman on Welcome Back, Cotter, but close second here.
We lost Valerie Prine today. And she was Miss Tessmacher in Superman and Superman 2, and she was beautiful. Just drop dead gorgeous. And and she apparently last few years been battling Parkinson's, horrifically battling Parkinson's. And heroically battling
it. The whole Parkinson's thing, certainly resonates with me because that's what took my mom. And it depleted her and her family's finances very heavily, for all the care that was involved over these last 5 years or so. So there is a Kickstarter out there for her funeral expenses to get her buried. She always wanted to be buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery in Los Angeles. So they're trying to raise some money. So, I've shot a couple of bucks myself. So, I never, ever, ever promote a Kickstarter. I haven't,
started yourself. Yeah.
Tossed a few, pennies in myself. Well, more than a few pennies, but you know what I'm saying.
Was there anything more drop dead gorgeous than she was? And then also people don't think about it, but she was in Lenny with Dustin Hoffman, right?
Nominated for an Academy Award, I believe, right?
Yes. But the scene that she's the most famous for, right, Rich? The scene where you go, it's the coolest scene. It's one of the coolest scenes in the entire goddamn movie.
It's a great scene for her character. It's a great scene for
Superman. Like it just
helps define the character and how Superman affects other people.
Making them, why can't I get with the good guys? You said in the newspaper interview, you never ever lie. My mother lives in Hackensack. I need you to go get her first. But Lois and Jimmy, you have to go for her first. And then she kisses him before she takes the kryptonite off. And he's like, why did you kiss me before you took the kryptonite? Because I didn't think you'd let me do it after. And it's a sweet scene. It encapsulates her character who's confused. But the idea that, she's hung out with this low-life Lex for all these years and that Superman pops into her life for, 20 minutes. And now she does go right to the second movie and break them both out of prison. But it is what it is, Rich.
Yeah.
It's the magic of character growth, maybe. But she passed away, so rest in peace to Valerie Perrine.
Thank all three of you for the joy and fun that you brought.
The joy and things you brought. Like I did a list. There was a really good list bouncing around on for Chuck Norris. If you're a Chuck Norris person, not everybody is, and that's okay. But if you are a Chuck Norris person, I was bouncing around. They had a list that was bouncing around that if you want to see like and they're all on Tubi, Rich. Like I was looking through it, like you can watch them all for free. So you're not spending any money if you feel guilty about it or whatever. Not that you would if you're a fan, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like the list was Lone Wolf McQuaid, which was from 1983, plays a Texas Ranger. David Carradine's the villain in that movie. It's pretty great. Code of Silence is a fantastic Chicago police movie, and you'll notice that almost all the actors that are in Code of Silence are also in The Fugitive, if you pay really close attention. It's like an actual cop movie. Like it's not like a cheesy movie at all. Delta Force was him and Lee Marvin. It's just kind of really kind of low budget, fun, actiony. Invasion USA is the same way. It's a communist invasion of America. He takes them all on. Missing in Action is kind of his most, I think, one of his most sensitive pieces in the sense that it was a topic that he took very seriously. And then if there's so many seasons of Walker Texas Ranger, if you really want to experience that, but that was not my show. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to go watch it. But rest in peace to all three of them. Thank you for the joy. Better news.
In better news, I've got two pieces I wanted to talk about that are related. Let's
do comments first.
Okay,
good evening,
friends. Let's welcome some Ken. Hey, Ken.
Good evening, all. You'll be discussing one of my favorite movie franchises tonight. Okay, cool. Hello. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate you, Miss Shatter or Mr. Shatter. And Bakari, welcome. Hi.
Howdy.
Thanks for joining us. We're happy here. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. We're going to talk a classic movie, The Hustler, as we progress through the night. This movie right here, a very classic Paul Newman, Jackie Gleason, Piper Laurie, George C. Scott. about pool and about addiction and just uh, not being enough is essentially what the movie is about.
Yeah.
What do you want to discuss before we move on to happier box office times?
Well, as you know, I'm very concerned with media preservation, finding of lost media, and we had since we last did our last regular show 2 weeks ago, we've had two absolutely exciting and fantastic finds come to light in the news. First off, 2 episodes of a William Hartnell Doctor Who serial were found by the organization Film is Fabulous over in England. It was episodes 1 and 3 of the Dalek Master Plan. Not seen since about 1966. As you know, early Doctor Who was not properly preserved by the BBC, so trying to find all of it has been a decades-long process. We're still down to about 97 half hours that haven't been discovered yet. There's a few that probably will never be discovered. I'm thinking, actually, there's one episode in the middle of this 12-part Daleks Master Plan story that was specifically went out on Christmas Day, and it kind of was like a breather outside of what happens in the regular story. So that's probably never going to be found because they never syndicated that out, which is how they're finding a lot of these lost episodes. But it was a great, exciting moment. I'm sorry?
Incredible that we didn't take care of shit.
Well,
like important shit. You know what I mean? Like,
true. But for the BBC at the time, Doctor Who was just a thing that they aired it in England. They syndicated it out to most of the Commonwealth, countries like New Zealand or some Australia, Canada, some other places. Yeah. And it wasn't anything that they thought they would ever be able to resell and use and market over and over and over again for 6 decades now. Yeah, so that was found, which very exciting. Apparently, somebody, a film collector, had these 2 episodes in their collection, and when they died, the film is Fabulous people come in, and they're about preserving old film collections in England to make sure that there isn't anything that is missing that would accidentally
anything important just sitting in somebody's trunk somewhere, just sitting there.
And it's not just Doctor Who these guys are concerned with. It's all BBC assets from that era that are considered lost. They've discovered a number of episodes of shows like Z Cars, Hopkins and Randall Deceased, and a couple of other like dramas and comedies, things like that. What Happened to the Likely Lads was another one. And they do great work. They're another group that I've donated money to, because I'm like, hey, I'm in the US. I can't physically show up and help you move something or anything, but here's $25 because I really think what you're doing is important. And yeah, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so thanks for finding 2 Doctor Who episodes. But the other stuff that you're finding too is exciting, and I hope that it gets to a point where they can start releasing some of that other stuff too, because I'm just interested in some of these shows that I've read about for decades and haven't had a chance to really see.
What was the other story?
The other find makes really made me jump for joy when it came out on Friday afternoon, that the last missing episode from the very first locally produced in Minneapolis season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 has been found, and it looks pristine. The recording that they found is like, it's beautiful. Look, it's not an off-the-air recording. But some back story real quick. MST3K was originally developed for an independent station in Minneapolis, KTMA, by Joel Hodgson. It's really like it's a 24 episode dry run of what Comedy Central picks up and turns into the beloved hit that we all know. The riffing, especially in the first couple of episodes, and this is the episode 3 in that season that they found that had been missing, was often done in the moment that they were filming, not pre-written or anything like that. They're interesting episodes from the sake of, if you're an MST3K fan, you kind of get to see the origins and stuff like that, an academic sense almost. You're not going to sit down to watch it for a lot of fun the way you would sit down and watch Catalina Caper or Manos or any of the great MST3K episodes. But this was, they were riffing Fugitive Alien 2. Yeah, they were riffing Fugitive Alien 2, which the show would then do again in the third season of the Comedy Central version. This was on a VHS tape that somebody found at a garage sale, and they looked at it and they knew what it was and were like, "Oh my god,
we don't take care of our shit. We don't deserve nice things, Rich."
No, most of the rest of the KTMA series had been, after about a month, once the show started taking off in Minneapolis, people were taping it, and then of course you get the keep circulating the tapes, making copies, sending it to friends, stuff like that. So all of those were in circulation from like episode 4 on. During the Kickstarter for the Netflix seasons in 2016, Joel Hodgson said, "Hey, we have episodes 1 and 2 from KTMA. We're going to release those out into the wild." Even though we're not that proud of how they are. I mean, I would say be proud of what you created, even though, it's a rough draft. But everybody was like, we don't have a copy of this third episode. And everybody just started to think, well, that might be lost to time. KTMA closed down years ago. Their archives are probably all junked. But this tape is so pristine. It looks like somebody copied it directly off a master tape. Which is leading to a lot of questions, but that have not been answered yet. But as a fan of MST3K, a fan of Doctor Who, despite the sad deaths, passings these last couple of days, and so I've had these two things to kind of buoyant me up. That is like, oh my gosh, new stuff I never thought we would see. So. Swings and roundabouts, I guess, for this whole.
It's a circle of life kind of thing. We're excited about finding new stuff, losing people we enjoyed their work. Good evening, Drew. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. Other good news. A funny story, Rich. If you make a movie that people will love, they will eventually go to the theater and watch the movie. Even when they know it's coming to Prime at some point.
It's just that easy.
It's just that easy. You make a movie called Project Hail Mary, which if you haven't seen it yet, folks, I can't recommend it enough. Gosling is great. Rocky is great. The visuals are impressive. It's one of the best movies. It's one of the best movies of the year. Andy Weir's, they're apparently Lord and Miller are working on his other book called Artemis, which is like kind of like Ocean's 11 on a moon base. It's just everything's coming up Andy Weir. But this movie, Rich, it's kind of it's a masterstroke. Number 1 at the box office. $80 million, $141 million globally. It's the biggest premiere of 2026 so far, biggest for Amazon MGM Studios. Congrats. We have MGM is back, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And it's a fucking winner, man. It's good. It's well done. It's heartfelt. It's about friendship and about the idea that you can't be alone in the universe. You got to find somebody. You got to find your friend. And find out why these little things are eating the sun, man. And it's just Gosling is amazing. Sandra Hüller is absolutely mesmerizing in kind of a real mean. she's not mean. She's just very pragmatic, a very pragmatic scientist.
It's a role that could have come off as just mean or cold or what have you. But she has just, injects just a little bit of warmth, a little bit of humanity, a little bit of empathy there, especially in some of the harder parts. And I think that really, really adds a lot of depth and shading.
Well, there's a scene where he's like put into a room and they're basically like, hey, do an experiment. And he's like, okay. And he gets in there and he realizes he's playing around with things that he shouldn't be playing around with. And he turns to the camera and like is in a suit and he's like, hey, am I supposed to die in here? And she turns and like turns off the mic and starts talking to the people behind him. And Gosling's flipping out like, why are you talking to the people behind you? Like, what is this? And then she turns back and she's like, no, we're all under the impression it would be better if you didn't die. And that's the kind of humor of the movie. The movie is just warm and ingratiating, and Rocky is he's one of the best film creations, that I've ever seen, to be honest. Like, he's up there with Gizmo and E.T. and all the great movie creations where you're like, this is cool. I still keep on going. I was walking around my nephew's room, which is sometimes filthy because they're kids, just going dirty, 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 dirty. Why is it so dirty? Dirty. And once you see the movie, you'll understand that joke because he's awesome. And he's everything we want, like a compatriot, a friend. That movie opened very well. Hoppers is another kind of thing where we're like, holy shnikey. Hoppers only dropped another 37% this week. So it's literally, Hoppers has grossed $242.5 million in 3 weeks. One of the biggest hits in new Pixar that we've seen. And then we had the Indian movie do very well in third place that beat out Ready or Not 2, which came in fourth place at 9.1 million. Little bit disappointing considering we're making a sequel to a movie that only did okay and they thought it was going to be a little bit bigger. But I will say to you, it's a great movie, Rich. It's violent. It's fun and gory and violent, and Samara Weaving and Catherine Newton are great, and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Sean Hattie are great. Good to see David Cronenberg on the big screen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's not the best movie of the year, but it's certainly not the worst. And if you have a wanton bloodlust, it is definitely up your alley. It is very gory and very fun. But that's good news. Box office is doing well.
Yep.
Imagine if you make movies. And I was looking at it, the history of the Project Hail Mary. This is a couple things where we're dealing with. I don't know, if you make original movies, guess what? People show up. People want to see something original. We keep on saying it's a madness. But this movie launches in the same, without having an IP, anything over $60 million on an opening weekend is astounding. Mm-hmm. Especially with a 2.5-hour running time. And so 80 puts it, I think it was like $1 million off of Oppenheimer, which is one of the last movies we had with no IP connections whatsoever. Unless you consider, the hydrogen bomb an IP, like we know about it. So
it's classified intellectual property, actually.
It's a classified intellectual. But like I said, the amazing thing about Project Hail Mary is it has an open runway for the next 2 weeks. The only thing opening against it this week is another low-budget horror film.
They Will Kill You.
They Will Kill You, and also Forbidden Fruits, which has the amazing player description as, what if Mean Girls and The Craft had a baby?
I love the trailer for They Will Kill You. It
a
just
great
has
trailer.
a very mid-70s vibe, or a Tarantino channeling the mid-70s exploitation vibe. And
It has
I
a, you know what it
really
has?
hope
It has
that's
an
kind of
Argento. It has an Argento vibe. It has a
yeah,
Dario
okay, yeah,
Argento
a little
vibe.
bit of Gallo in there.
A little bit of Gallo Italian horror. But again, that looks really great. But it's not gonna come close to Project Hail Mary. And at this point, the cinema score coming out of Project Hail Mary is all A's. Very hard to get A's, Rich. Very hard to keep people happy in this day and age.
Weekend, 25th anniversary screenings of The Mummy Returns.
Mummy Returns and Stand By Me is next weekend as well.
And a documentary I've been hearing good words about, and I'm anxious to check, is called The AI Doc, or How I Became an Apocalyptimist.
Funny you should mention AI. We got a big show coming up on Thursday about AI. Our good friends,
and how it's evil
Joe
and
Ridgely,
wrong, and people who use it should be strung up by their heels.
Well, maybe we're gonna have to watch to find out.
I didn't even read
Untrained and Unscripted, Reality of AI episode with special guests, experts in the AI field. Joe Ridgely and Ryan West are talking about AI on Thursday night at 10. So that's a big show. We also,
as you know, I'm not a fan of generative AI in any kind of creative endeavor.
So I have to be sold on it. My big thing is, like they said, Joe was saying, you come and ask questions. I'm like, can we ask questions about like Skynet? Because that's what I think of. That's what I think of about AI. We also have a little show I do on Tuesday nights called Loud and Nerdy. We have a very exciting guest tomorrow night. Harry Kernetsky used to be one of my improv students. He was just on Wheel of Fortune like an hour ago, 2 hours ago. And he did okay. I'm glad he did okay. But he's going to come on. We're going to talk about the audition. We're going to talk about getting on the show. We're going to talk about meeting Vanna. All those things tomorrow night on Loud Nerdy. But tonight, Rich, we launch something that came out of our depraved minds. How long could you make a movie and then wait to make a sequel? So we came up with your term as legacy sequel. I was using long.
Oh no, that's not my term. But
that's a term that you want to use. I was doing long gestating sequels.
Well, that makes it sound like you were thinking about doing this sequel for years and years and years. Like,
well, like they were pregnant with the sequel. I understand what you mean. I think legacy sequel sounds
like
better.
It was in development. But
the movie we're going to talk about tonight is this movie here called The Hustler. It is Paul Newman at his Paul Newmaniest. Like it's just everything about him screams superstar. It's got Piper Laurie in a devastating supporting actress performance, or actress performance. George C. Scott in a not a George C. Scott role that's not typically a George C. Scott role. And then Jackie Gleason, the amazing Jackie Gleason, who is, of course, known for The Honeymooners and his own show, his variety show, playing Minnesota Fats, or as Paul Newman continuously calls him, he played good pool, fat man. But like I said, the interesting thing about The Hustler is that it will go on, and we will be celebrating the 40th anniversary of its sequel. So this movie was made in 1961. Its sequel is made in 1986. And it's a little movie with Paul Newman and Tom Cruise and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, directed by Martin Scorsese, called The Color of Money. So we're going to do The Hustler this week, and we're going to do The Color of Money next week. So we can finish the Fast Eddie Felson story. But this week we're doing The Hustler.
Yeah. And so before we start in, let's define our terms by what we mean as a legacy sequel. How long do you think it has to be before you can do the sequel to have it considered like a legacy sequel and not just, oh yeah, we made a sequel to so-and-so?
Well, we've made a very critical decision about one of the sets of movies we're doing, so we can get in on the 40th anniversary of a movie we both love. So the lowest we can go is 7 years for our purposes, because we had a movie that came out in 79. We have a movie that comes out in 86. So for our purposes, 7 years is the time.
Okay.
Couple comments before we go further. I didn't know he's married to Eva Mendes. Yes, he's a movie star, and he's rich, and he makes good movies, and he's married, and he goes home to every night and lays down next to Eva Mendes. Yeah, he's living a quality
Good to
life.
be Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, it's good. Bring your most difficult AI questions pertaining to AI movies, TV, and video games. Danny Donnelly, love Newman. The Hustler's brilliant, as well as later sequel, The Color of Money. Yes, thank you, Danny, for showing up. It's good to talk to you. Danny, of course, director and star of Last Known Location, a fantastic movie on Tubi. He was also on Loud Nerdy. Thank you. Newman is brilliant. I went on a Newman deep dive when they had the Newman documentary a few years ago. Rich knows. I would call him and I would text him in the middle of the night, being like, I just saw this. Have you ever seen this? This is fucking crazy. This movie's amazing. Like, there's a series of Newman movies where he's playing like a PI, and they're not like the drowning pool, and like they're not spectacular, but he's so good in them, and he's like playing like a drunk lout. It's amazing. Anyway, but The Hustler is unique. But so legacy sequels, 7 years is our cutoff point. Anything over 7 years.
I was kind of doing some research. How are other people defining a legacy sequel? Most people were saying 10 years, and that's fine. Now, what would you consider the first legacy sequel? Because I know what I do, and no one else has ever gotten close to it being what I was thinking it would be.
Okay, so legacy sequel.
Yes. Like,
are we talking about a legacy sequel like that may have come out like before our time, or is it something where we
anytime through the 100 and some years of the film industry?
I'm going through it now because I feel like it's a test. I feel like it's a quality test. I feel like I'm going to get it wrong too. Which is not great. I don't feel good about that at all.
Right, then you would get it right.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I know, but now the pressure's on. Legacy sequel. I would like to see that they've kind of they're kind of like in the vogue now. But if you're talking about something like, for me, as I was thinking about it, the reason The Hustler and The Color of Money came up first for me was because I was just like, I was looking at 86 movies because we like to do anniversaries, big anniversaries. And so I'm going to say The Color of Money for me, but I know that's wrong. So impress us with your acumen.
You're only off by 3 decades.
Is that all?
Yeah. The difference between 1947 and 1958, 11 years, between the last of the mainline MGM Andy Hardy films, and then when they came back and did Andy Hardy Comes Home in 58. It's absolutely a legacy sequel.
Well, that is a long time.
It's all the same. It's same studio. All the same actors are back playing their characters, as long as the actors hadn't died in the meantime, like Stone did. So
that's interesting. That's really interesting because Andy. Yeah, I mean, yes, that would work. I don't know that I think for a lot of people, I think The Color of Money is the first one where you went. For me, anyway, it's the first one where we're revisiting this character from when it came out in '86. We're revisiting this character from the '60s.
True, and one other thing that nobody considered it. Nobody labeled Andy Hardy Comes Home as a legacy sequel. They didn't invent that term then. No one else tried this idea that I can think of that I could find until right around now. But what about, and I don't necessarily consider it a legacy sequel or a sequel at all in terms of what some people were trying to say, but the 1939 Wizard of Oz and the 1984 Return to Oz.
Yeah, I think that's
no. For me, no.
That's a no. Did people say that?
Yeah, some people were like, "Oh yeah, it's a sequel because they're giving Dorothy shock treatment because she keeps rattling on about Oz." I'm like, well,
yeah, but no, they're more like the book. Like, think about in 84 when that movie comes out. That movie comes out because Disney picks up and options the rights, right? Because it's in the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
I never associate Return to Oz with the Wizard of Oz. I associate it with
if it was a true legacy sequel, then Scarecrow would look like Ray Bolger.
Right. If it's true legacy sequel, like everything would look like the way it's supposed to look. And again, we've talked about Return to Oz specifically as a movie we both like, but it's not necessarily something where you put it in the same pantheon as, like, the interesting thing about some of the legacy sequels we're talking about, like what I was thinking about today as we were like starting this list that you were working on for this little endeavor that we're doing on the show, is I would like, what's the key to these legacy sequels? It's characters we want to revisit, right? So in 86, Scorsese loves The Hustler so much that he wants to see what happened to Fast Eddie Felson, right? Other legacy sequels that we've been talking about, like the one that we're going to kind of cut the 3 years off of as I go to my magic book. That doesn't actually have the list in it. Sorry. That was really dumb. That was like my prop. The one we're gonna cut 3 years off is 86 from 79. So in 79, no one, in space, no one can hear you scream. In 86, we get Aliens, right? The other ones that we've discussed, and one maybe, one we didn't discuss that we might have to add. Recently, well, midway through, you had The Two Jakes, which was a sequel to Chinatown.
Yes.
We also had Blade Runner 2049, which is a sequel to Blade Runner. And also, like, we didn't discuss it, but we may add it. But The Shining came out in 1980, and then in 2022, 42 years later, we had Dr. Sleep,
which is a fantastic film.
It's a fantastic movie. It's a great sequel. And the interesting thing is about these movies, these legacy sequels, is you desperately want to see what happens to these characters. So Blade Runner, what happened to Deckard and Rachel? With this movie, The Hustler, right? What happens to Fast Eddie Felson after he succeeds at his goal, right? But his life is crushed in the milieu. Two Jakes. What happens to Jake Gittes after, my sister, my daughter, my sister, my daughter? What happens to Rick Deckard? What happens to Rachel? What happens to Ripley? You know what I mean? Ripley, technically, Aliens takes place 47 years after Alien. So it's like these legacy sequels, the one thing that sets them apart is that the characters become so ingrained and so beloved in the human condition that we have to see these characters again. We have to know what happens to Ripley, what happens to Deckard, what happens to Fast Eddie Felson, what happens to Jake Gittes. It becomes inevitable. What happens to Danny Torrance? Like, Dr. Sleep is a fantastic movie. Mike Flanagan's, that man knows how to make a horror movie. And that's something I was thinking about adding. We haven't done The Shining and we haven't done Dr. Sleep. That might be a good ad for us if we want to prolong this for more than 6 weeks is what we were talking. But yeah, it's the key for a legacy sequel is you have to want to go back and see what's going on with this character. And this character in this movie As Danny so eloquently points out, when I started acting on binge all my idols, Newman, Nicholson, so many classics. Yeah, Newman is a trove. Newman, like when you start perusing Newman stuff, you got HUD, you got Cool Hand Luke, you got The Hustler, you have he knocks shit out of the park early. Like he's good from the get-go, right? And this movie, stunning black and white, and there's Jackie Gleason, and there is a famous mayor we love, but Newman is, I have the picture I want. Newman and Piper Laurie are just, Newman, you can see the blue eyes, even though it's a black and white movie, Rich, right? He's stunning, as a human being, he's just, and the character is fascinating. The character is just amazing. But let's start where we always start. Let's
dive into this because I want to talk about this black and white photography.
Oh my God.
I've said once or twice before that nothing really beats black and white widescreen photography when done right. And the guy, who shot this movie, Eugene Schuften, German cinematographer who at the outbreak of the war kind of hightailed it to Hollywood with a lot of other people. This is the guy who shot Der Nibelung and Metropolis for Fritz Lang. Okay. And he's still doing, amazing work, so many
amazing work. He won an Oscar. Amazing work. He won an Oscar for the black and white cinematography. The art direction also wins. Harry Horner and Gene Callahan. It is one of those movies, production wise, when you're you read about it and you're just like, how did they do this, right? So let's start with some of the good backstory. Book was the option. The Tevis novel was the option a bunch of times. Frank Sinatra wanted to do it, right? But the director, Robert Rossen, he really fell in love with it, and he was a playwright, but he was also a filmmaker, and he was also a director. And he was working on a book, and then all hell broke loose because once they're making the movie, and this is where we're the one and only time on our show, Rich, we're going to thank the heavens for Cleopatra, the Elizabeth Taylor Cleopatra, because this story is brutal. If you are a Bobby Darin fan, Bobby Darin had originally been given the role after Paul Newman turned down the role. Bobby Darin got offered the part, and Bobby Darin was going to play it. Bobby Darin set up to play it, was ready to go, but then Taylor dropped out of Two for the Seesaw because I don't know if you know this, Rich, but Cleopatra was a logistical shooting nightmare, and she got called back for reshoots. Yeah, shocking. It cost a lot of money, and it didn't do well, and also it was a mess. And then Newman basically was freed up to take the role. He read half the script on a train ride in to see his agent and said, "I'll do it. I don't need the read anymore. I'm good." But they never told Bobby Darin. And Bobby Darin found out, apparently the story goes, at a horse race, where he found out that Paul Newman was going to be in this movie called The Hustler. Here's where it gets fun, though, Rich. It was shot over 6 weeks, entirely in New York City. It was filmed at two defunct pool halls, McGreary's, and Ames Billiard Academy. Other shooting locations included a townhouse on East 82nd Street, which served as the Louisville home of Murray Hamilton's Finley, and a Manhattan Greyhound bus terminal. The film crew had built a dining area, Rich, that was so realistic that passengers sat there and waited to get their orders taken.
Kooky.
Crazy. It does have a real pool player, the guy that collects the money in all the big games with Minnesota Fats is named Willie Moscone. He was also a technical advisor. He's also the person, if you're watching all the trick shots in the movie, he's probably the one doing them, except for Rich, and I know you know this, Jackie Gleason's shots were all his. He was filmed in wide angle, specifically, if you look at the wide angle image you were talking about, he was there doing the shots, making the shots. He was a very good billiards player. And
I remember Moscone from ABC Wide World of Sports on Saturday afternoons. Every now and then they'd have like some kind of billiards thing, and I remember he would be there. I always knew that name growing up. I also knew the name Minnesota Fats, and for some reason that got stuck in my head too, thinking, oh yeah, that's a real guy too, that they fictionalized for this movie. And I think I was in like high school when I realized that
well, they fictionalized the guy, and then he took the fucking name.
Yeah,
they fictionalized the person who was like a real person, and then once the person realized that the person in the movie played by Jackie Gleason, Minnesota Fats, he took the Minnesota Fats name and ran with it.
Well, yeah. That was Rudolph Wanderrun,
right?
Who
this
was,
movie
known as New York Fats,
right? And this movie, or New York Fatty as well. And the funny thing there is, when fact becomes fiction, when fact becomes legend, print the legend, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's based on me. I'm Minnesota Fats. Hi, how you doing? But like the amazing photography, like the pool halls look lived in. They're decrepit and just, it's mesmerizing. But basically, one of the big things that happened during filming was there was a lot of focus on playing pool, but midway through, Robert Rossen made the command decision of basically focusing on the chemistry that Piper Laurie and Paul Newman share in the movie. And Rich, that chemistry is off the charts. Like she's so good in the movie. Look at that smile and that outfit, and it's like, and she is lovelorn and lost, and she's a functional alcoholic, and it's just, her performance is crippling. It's an amazing, mesmerizing performance. It's just so well done. And all of these things come together for Rossen, and we should talk about this for a moment. It all comes together for Rossen, because even after the fact that he has been torn asunder by the communist witch hunt of Joseph McCarthy. So Rossen comes into this movie, and then you can kind of see that in the themes, right? The production, like his focus on the idea of money being, kind of super evil, and the way Bert, the wealthy guy, kind of like, we haven't even talked about that performance. George C. Scott is evil in this movie. Like he is so terrible. Like there's a sequence, Rich, there's a scene in the movie that I found to be both hilarious, but also like incredibly evil. And just like, where you're like, that is a prick of a character. Paul Newman's playing Minnesota Fats. He's beginning to lose. He's beginning to crash. And Bert is sitting there, the gambler that backs Minnesota Fats. And Paul Newman turns to him and says, "Can you move? Where you're sitting is bothering me." And George C. Scott, does a thing to the camera. He's like, okay, I'll move. He gets up, picks up the seat, moves it 6 inches, and sits right down. And it's like, that's that character in a nutshell. But Rossen is an interesting case. He's a guy that has a couple movies, but nothing. The other movie, his other claim to fame is, oh my goodness, I'm going blank on it. His other claim to fame is all the presidents, all the King's Men. Right? So 1949 makes All the King's Men. He makes a couple other movies, Alexander the Great, Island of the Sun, They Came to Kildare, The Hustler, and Lilith is his last movie in 1964. But his production style and values are all minimalist, neo-noir, but I don't, like, it's not a noir movie.
No,
it's
no.
close.
I mean,
it has some things to it. I was going to ask you. I mean, this is one of the fascinating things about the production. It's described as a neo noir, but in reality, it becomes just a character study, like a sports character study at that, right? Where, the themes and things that they're going for are all part and parcel of the script that Rawson has written. And it's a devastating movie. It's an absolute, kind of like, but back to your cinematography thing, I think there are things in framing where he puts people in shots where, the person that's in charge is above them. and Piper Laurie is almost always underneath, right? She's almost always shot where she's below Eddie or below a Bert or it's a real smart way to shoot things that I don't know that everybody makes movies does, right? Where the idea that the camera can be a character and the camera can be in charge of what's going on with these characters. But the pool sequences are great. Gleason is fantastic. And the idea that they had all these like lucky casting choices and just things. It's one of those movies where you sit back and you go, everything fell into place production-wise. You know what I mean? Like, no fighting on this one. No, except for the Bobby Darin thing. But that's also one of those Hollywood fluke things. Like, Newman's supposed to be with Taylor. Then all of a sudden, she can't get out of Cleopatra. And then he becomes Fast Eddie Felson. It's unbelievable. What else do you want to talk about production wise? The idea that they brought a lot of stage stuff. There's a lot of where we talked about they were working a lot of the scenes, working like doing workshopping that Rawson learned as a playwright. That is also like in some of the movies that you and I have discussed recently, right? They had 2 or 3 weeks or a month to get to know each other. That I don't know that they have time on Hollywood movies today. They should, because they're making a ton of fucking money, right?
It depends. It depends whether they have like a rehearsal period or, or if they're just everybody shows up and, 5 minutes of prep while the cameras are setting up. I've seen both and everything in between.
Danny writes, Color Money is one of the great sequels that establishes character growth without having to hit you over the head with flashbacks. You believe Newman and Elizabeth Fast that he would be in life. I think it's a sequel that stands on its own. You can enjoy without having seen The Hustler. Sorry, big Newman fan here. No, nothing to be sorry about. That's a great point. That is another thing that is important for legacy sequels, right, Rich? They kind of have to stand on their own. They can't just kind of, because we're pulling it so far apart, the movie itself has to be good, right? It can't be like a basic sequel. Like I'm going to use a good sequel, but not a great, like it's a good movie, but it's not a great, and it's a good sequel, but it's not necessarily like something like Beverly Hills Cop comes out 3 years after Beverly Hills Cop, right? Beverly Hills Cop 2 comes out in 1987.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a fine sequel, but you know what you're getting. If you're making a movie 27 years or 25 years after the original, that movie's got to stand on its own. 10 years after the original, 7 years after the original. And that's why you can also see that in some ways they're different. Gabe writes, I love George C. Scott. I need to check it out. You've never quite, I don't know that you've seen George C. Scott like this. I don't know that in any of his movies he's like this. You know what I mean, Rich?
Yeah, he's
smarmy,
but I was gonna say kind of cool, like, you know, because he
Yeah.
has like a narrow tie, he has a shark skin suit. You know, we first see him, he's wearing the sunglasses, his hair is like, and I'm like, that's a great look, but he's gonna be but we know the character's a prick anyway.
Not
So
just a prick, like he's a bottom feeder, and he's also a good, like, the other problem with it, right? We're going to talk about it when we get to the review.
mm-hmm.
He's a bottom feeder that also is really good at reading people. Like he can walk into a room and pick out from somebody sweating across the room that they're maybe worried about their mortgage payment. It's uncanny, the character. I'd love to, at least after out of their usual norm. It's definitely out of their usual norm. It's not Patton. Let's talk about box office. This movie, of course, was a tremendous hit. It was made on a small budget. But again, we're gonna deal with small monies. We talked about Ready or Not to making $9.1 million. The whole entire box office for this movie was $7.6 million. But the interesting thing here is the budget was $2.1 million, Rich, and the $2.1 million budget shot entirely in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. 2.1, not bad, considering how expensive movies cost in New York. But it's a big hit. It becomes one of the biggest hits of 1961, and on top of it, it actually leads to a madcap repurposing of the entire like game of pool. Like, it's one of those movies that causes people to go out to their local pool hall, which they had in the 60s, and it completely reinvigorated pool in much you were talking about seeing people on Wide World of Sports. If this movie doesn't exist, you don't see these people on Wide World of Sports playing pool, or you don't see it. Remember when it hit ESPN in the 80s and 90s? This movie kind of gave birth to it. It gave birth to pool breaking out, like, even though it's a seedy movie in dark pool halls, right? All the things that you're worried about in The Music Man, right? You know, all those things. It becomes a big hit, and it reinvigorates the sport of pool. Critical response then and now. So first off, if you've never seen it, I can't recommend it enough. It's one of his best performances. Paul Newman he's magnetic. He is magnetic as Fast Eddie Felson. It is one of his, like Cool Hand Luke, like HUD, like, Butch Cassidy. Like, it is one of his prime roles, right? Where if you want to know what Paul Newman is, this is the role you got to see. But what I was amazed by, Rich, is, I think everybody thinks about The Hustler. They think about Newman as Fast Eddie Felson. They think about the pool. But the supporting cast is so good. Like, star performances from everyone. Jackie Gleason is fantastic as the protagonist, who doesn't really, like, he's not a bad guy. He's just as good as Fast Eddie is. Piper Laurie will break your ever-loving heart in this movie. She is fantastic. And the themes of not being good enough, am I good enough? I need to know if I'm good enough, are all there. And George C. Scott is he's an absolute scumbag in this movie. Like, absolute scumbag. I love how much of a scumbag he is, because we don't see him like that in other movies. He's this gambler, and he puts money, once he puts his hooks into you, he owns you. And Piper Laurie is just devastating. Like, I remember, like, I don't know if you have this experience. Like, sometimes when you watch older movies and you've seen them, but you don't quite remember exactly how devastating things are in them. especially the older movies. Like when you get,
Well, yeah,
like,
with this, I hadn't watched this in forever until like a few hours ago. So yeah, I'm just like totally mesmerized. It was virtually a new movie. I mean, intellectually in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, yeah, I know what's coming up in terms of especially the third act. But I was so engrossed with it, it was like watching it for the first time. So it was
yeah,
amazing.
and everybody involved. Robert Rawson is, he directs, like, it's a very even keel direction. But it sits with you afterwards. Like, you're thinking about it afterwards. You're thinking about, there's a shot of Piper Laurie at her bottom. Well, actually, there's several moments of Piper Laurie at her bottom, like where she's waking up from a drunken stupor or whatever. But there's one moment towards the end of the film where she walks in and she's like, she's just in underwear and she's basically she's at her bottom moment. We don't know we kind of have an idea what's happened with her and Bert, and it's gotten ugly. And she walks in and she closes the bathroom door and she just starts writing on the mirror depravity, and like you're like sitting there going, holy fuck, right? And it's just like, once, and she says it to him once or twice where it's like, don't take money from him, Eddie. Once he gets his hooks into you, he will never let you go, right? And it's just and Eddie's comment to her is, I'd rather have 25% of something big than 100% of nothing.
100% of nothing. Yeah.
100% of nothing. So we use Rotten Tomatoes as a good aggregate. There are some great reviews out there, especially by our favorite.
One other.
Sure. No. Yeah, no worries.
One other cast member you missed. One of the bartenders in there is the boxer Jake LaMotta.
Oh, okay, yeah. And Vincent Gardenia is also one of the boxers. Yeah, it's the movie itself is absolutely mesmerizing in every conceivable way, right? It runs about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Everything is earned. And again, it's a star-making performance by Newman. Newman's early stuff, like, he's such a bright, blazing star. Like, he's so bright and so, like, blazing. And again, it all goes back to my, that documentary that came out where I was just infected with the Newman mind virus. But the thing about this movie that's also special is, like, it's just got a lot going on. Like, it's dark, but it's hopeful. It's, you get the idea that maybe Eddie could get out of it, and he's found somebody that loves him for him, and she's a mess, but she's like, she does love him. You know what I mean? It's a great movie. Fun stuff. We use Rotten Tomatoes as a good aggregate. It's at 94% with 48 reviews. Here's where it gets fun. The audience score is 92% with 25,000 scores. So once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it is one of those truly great movies that you will be rewarded for your time and effort. Like, this movie requires you to be invested in this character, right? Invested in her, invested, in Sarah, invested in everybody. And it's, you'll hear some people say it's film noir. I don't think it's film noir because she's not a femme fatale. So it's a little
she
bit. She
doesn't lure him to his doom.
She's trying to lure him away from doom, if anything.
Yes.
And she is a bright shining hill. Roger Ebert sums it up amazingly. 4 out of 4 stars from Roger Ebert, and he writes in 2002 about this. The Hustler is one of those films where scenes have such psychic weight that they grow into our memories. And that is a perfect way to describe it, because you think about her, you think about him. The movie moves pretty well. It does work as a fully functional sports movie if you want to look at it that way. But there's so much other stuff going on that's interesting, and great performances all around. Gleason is particularly kind of, he's, there's one sequence where he's getting like he has stuff he does to kind of put people in a mindset that they're gonna lose, right? So he has like a person that's in his pool hall that puts his jacket on, and when he rubs his hands like this. They bring out the talcum, and he puts the talcum on. And Paul Newman, the first time he meets him, he walks over. He's like, "Oh, look at that! Just like a baby. You're like a baby. You get like, you're all cute and everything, and you got your powder and all like." And that's the thing. Some of Newman's performances are so like, they're so great that he makes you fall in love with characters that aren't necessarily the nicest or the coolest or whatever. You fall in love with his characters because they're real. They're this everyman that kind of like is in this guy's body, and he embodies like this, like there's a cool to him that's very, very significant. But Jackie Gleason is really great in the role. And all the pool hall stuff is super interesting. Like, it does have a grift element to it where they're grifting the rubes, going from town to town. He has a guy that he works with, and he kind of casts that guy aside because that guy is smart enough. When he goes on his first losing streak to Minnesota Fats, he takes some of the money and puts it away and comes to him and says, "Let's go back on the road. I saved, of the $18,000 you lost that night to Fats, I saved $1,500. I want you to have all of it. You deserve it. You want it. I saved it for you." And he throws him on the street, absolutely crushes him and says, "You don't believe in what I can do, old man? Get out. Get out. I don't want to go anywhere with you." Just amazing. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets fun, kids. Well, first off, comments, and then we'll do legacy and franchise viability. Comments. Joe writes, "If you like movies, I highly recommend The Infect Pool Hall Junkies. Pretty impressive cast, but unfortunately it doesn't get mentioned much." Yeah, it's an okay movie. But it's in the similar vein. But the problem, mentioning it next to The Color of Money and Pool and The Hustler is rough. But I understand what you're saying. Legacy and franchise viability. First off, we're not going to get a sequel to this movie for 25 years. Mm-hmm. That sequel is going to be called The Color of Money. It's going to be written and directed by Martin Scorsese. It's going to have Paul Newman, and at the time, the young whippersnapper that's tearing up Hollywood in the 80s, this young man named Tom Cruise, who we're never heard of him. But what I want you to look at, like if you've seen recent movies, like I was thinking about this today as I was watching it, right? This movie has one movie in particular that it really shares something with right now. And the movie that this movie has a lot in common with and is similar to is Marty Supreme.
Yes, actually, yeah.
Chalamet as Marty Supreme is Newman as Fast Eddie Felson. They are very similar characters. They both have, they have their moments, but they also have like people they drag into the sewer with them. And some of those people don't get out. Some of them do. But we're going to get The Color of Money.
They both are at the top of their field. They know it. And that amount of pride that's not tempered by, wisdom gained through just living. They're young, dumb, and full of cum, basically.
So to speak.
That's what leads to their downfalls.
Right. They're good and they know it, and they haven't learned how to lose properly or to lose at all. Like they're so used to winning that when they come across losing, it's a shocker. Right. And I just think that's the movie that has a lot in common with it. And it's just, two young actors that are, Newman in 61 and Chalamet now. It's very similar. But the idea of the morally conflicted sports star is something that's with us all times in real life and in, from this movie, right? But it's the legacy of this movie is, I was thinking about The Color of Money, and Piper Laurie doesn't get mentioned. She gets mentioned like once or twice, but nothing like, not that he hasn't learned from it, but Fast Eddie is not, where he's at when The Color of Money happens in 25 years. We're going to talk about it next week, and it's absolutely, a fun button hook. And also the biggest, one of the bigger crimes of Hollywood history will be solved in 1986 when The Color of Money comes out, because Paul Newman will finally win an Oscar. The idea that Paul Newman had to wait until 1986 when he had HUD and Cool Hand Luke and The Hustler and all these movies, right? He will win for Fast Eddie Felson, but not here. The movie's nominated for 9 Academy Awards. It wins 2 for set design and cinematography, and it loses everything else. But it is on the AFI 100. It's always mentioned as one of the AFI 100. Its legacy is also that it's he's Burt Gordon was a nominated villain for one of those show. It got nominated for one of the quotes, "Eddie, you're a born loser." It's ASI's top 10. It's the number 6 sports film of all time, which is kind of fun. It's an amazing kind of, it's also widely regarded as one of the best movies to not win Best Picture. Is another part of its legacy. So I can't recommend it enough. If you've never seen it and you really want to watch something that's dark and also mildly hopeful.
And also this year, though, okay, since we're just rolling off of our worst best pictures thing that we did. I'm just pulling it up now. Here, The Hustler for Best Picture was up against Judgment at Nuremberg, The Guns of Navarone, Fanny, and West Side Story. And West Side Story was what won. I'm not going to lie to you. I would take 3 movies over West Side Story. But I understand West Side Story, but I would take The Hustler. I would certainly take The Guns of Navarone, which is going to become part of our Father's Day thing we're working on. Yes. Guns of Navarone 2, Force 10 from Navarone. There's a legacy.
There's another one. There you go. Also a legacy sequel. Fun. Amazing when we're together what we come up with. But
that's frightening.
I would also say Judgment at Nuremberg. Judgment at Nuremberg is a pretty well done. I sometimes I don't understand the Oscars, but I understand the spectacle of West Side Story as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
West Side Story, the things that were shot in West Side Story in '61 were never on screen. Although I will say West Side Story, the Spielberg West Side Story is also very good and underrated. It's thrown out there.
It's fantastic.
The idea that movie somehow got forgotten in that year is one of those crazy things. But the legacy of Fast Eddie Felson will always be with us. Rich, what are you working on? Where can people find your stuff?
Excuse me. All of my writing can be found at filmbuffonline.com. Hopefully I've got a few reviews coming up. I have to finish off a review for a TV series that I've seen the entire run of already. that drops. I think I can start talking about it tomorrow after 9 p.m.
You son of a bitch. I hate you. You've seen it all? You've seen everything.
All 8 episodes. Yeah. We'll talk afterwards if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, all of that can be found at filmbuffonline.com. I have a Facebook page for filmbuffonline.com that you can follow along. You get notifications when new stuff goes up. Plus, we also have a few Facebook-only kind of things on there as well that I hope are fun for you.
And Rest in Peace, you do great work on Rest in Peace stuff. You do great work. Yeah,
that's both me and my friend William Gata Vasquez. He jumps on a lot of that stuff when he sees it. In fact,
that guy's a troublemaker. I like him.
Our chats back and forth go, "Oh, you already got that? Okay, thanks." You know, or son of a bitch, I was gonna do that one, and I saw you did it already. Yeah. So So Bill is yes. And anyways, my socials I can be found at Twitter, Blue Sky, and the other one, Threads. Yeah, Jeebus. All at Filmbuff Rich.
Okay, so you can find me, JW Colwell, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever the fuck the maniac's calling it today, Instagram, IMDb, YouTube, all those places. If you like our show, if you watched tonight and liked our show, by all means, you can like and subscribe, and you'll see all our stuff. We do a lot of cool things. We have some big stuff coming through this week. Every Monday night, Rich and I will be here doing Generation Movie. Most Tuesday nights, you'll find me with my good friends Jerry and sometimes Raven and sometimes Joe Ridgely of the Indie Escape Network doing Loud Nerdy. Tomorrow night, we will have my good friend Harry Kornetsky, who I taught improv to, talking about his experience on Wheel of Fortune. And then this Thursday, as part of their bi-weekly show, they do it every 2 weeks, Ryan West and Joe Ridgely, Untrained and Unscripted Reality of AI episode with special guests, expert in the AI film field. They said come and ask questions. I'm going to go and ask questions. Again, my questions might be about Skynet, but I think they're going to want movie questions. I still have questions, but mostly Skynet. But thank you for joining us. My question
is going to be, have you seen Colossus the Forbin Project?
Do you know what Skynet is? And if it decides we're not worthy, can we just launch nuclear missiles? Anyway, Thank you for joining us. Next week, we will be back to discuss Fast Eddie Felson's second act, The Color of Money, Paul Newman, Tom Cruise, one of the best 80s movies, directed by Martin Scorsese. Absolutely invigorating, fun.
Great song in there from Eric Clapton.
Yeah, great movie. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see everybody next week. Go see a movie. It's a good time.